In the second half of the 19th century, the threat of invasion had obsessed the fledgling colony of Victoria. But there was no more vulnerable outpost than the coastal town of Queenscliff, a few kilometres southwest of Melbourne. It's the end of the road here, almost sea-locked and guarding the volatile entrance to the vast Port Phillip Bay.
I'm Kate Matheson. I'm the Managing Director of Vue Grand Hotel. I came to Queenscliff when I bought the hotel. The reason I came here was largely the location. I had originally from southwestern Victoria, had family living in Torquay, Janchuk. I didn't know a lot about the history of the hotel. I knew it was an 1880s building and there was a few of them in Victoria built in the same era. I purchased this hotel because when it came on the market, it was an iconic hotel, and I came and looked at it immediately when it was brought to my attention, and it fitted the criteria of location, proximity to Melbourne. We have quite a lot of weddings and conferences at the hotel. They are a big part of the business. First and foremost, the accommodation is the main part of the hotel business. There's 33 accommodation rooms here. Midweek conferences are really important to the hotel and to the town. Brings people in that wouldn't otherwise be here. Weddings are a really popular wedding venue, and functions, special occasions, obviously. And the food and beverage, the restaurant, and the rooftop bar are popular, but they're really just to support the accommodation, which is the first and foremost, the financial part of the business. So we need to have the food and beverage as part of the hotel because it would impact the accommodation and guests' interest in staying here. So, and it's good for the locals in the town as well, but it's not as integral to the business as the accommodation is.
My name is Ron Hodgetts. I'm lucky enough to be a volunteer here at the Queenscliff Historical Museum. I first came to Queenscliff in 1942 when my father joined the army, and he did his training at Fort Queenscliff. So I went to school in Queenscliff and we lived here until 1962, and I'd still be living here except for the fact that somebody with more money than us wanted to buy our block of land and we couldn't refuse the offer, and so moved to Geelong. The hotels in Queenscliff weren't terribly important to me as a lad when I was growing up because they were just there. Big, magnificent buildings that I didn't have much to do with, except when I became a paperboy delivering the Herald at night, and so I used to have a run where I went to the Esplanade Hotel, and I could walk into the hotel, into the bar, and I would shout out, "Herald!" and everyone would rush around and buy a Herald off me. And the rest of my run was the flat. But then one day somebody was away, sick or something, and so I was called on to do the other side of Hesse Street, which included the Vue Grand. And so I just went into the dining room and shouted out, "Herald," at the top of my voice. I was grabbed by the scruff of the neck by Mr. Jordan, the owner, and marched outside the door, and he said to me, "You will not shout out in my dining room." And that was my only experience with the Vue Grand at that time. I mean, I don't think you would find a hotel like it, even in some of the big cities. It was, when it was rebuilt the first time, before the fire, what was it? It had 3 towers, it was 3 stories, Towers were 4 stories, and on top of them a widow's walk, where you could stand up there and you could almost see Tasmania from the top viewing deck.
So what can you tell me about the fire in 1927?
I wasn't there.
You wasn't there?
It was 10 years before I was born, but from what I've heard, it was a Sunday morning. The first person to notice it was the postmaster. The post office is directly opposite the Vue Grand, and he noticed the smell of smoke and saw smoke coming out, so he went and tried to raise somebody. Mr. Banks, who lived nearby, rushed up to tell the owners and proprietors who were at church, and so the thing started. Nobody is really sure. There was a suspicion of an electrical fault, because it wasn't long before that electricity had been put on in the town. Then it was thought that perhaps there was a blocked chimney or something to do with a chimney. But many, many years later, the son of Mr. Tiernan, who I think was about 4 at the time, said that he did remember playing with matches in one of the top floor bedrooms shortly before they went to church. So that's most likely the cause.
A lot of people ask if there's a ghost, and I'm not really spiritual in that way, so I've never seen a ghost. I have staff who say that they have. I have had guests check in and say they really sense something. I was here for 1 year on my own with the hotel closed due to COVID, and disappointingly, no ghosts that I saw.
Well, every town has to have a ghost or a ghost story, and there are, or I have heard of one ghost story in Queenscliff, but that related to a serviceman who was murdered during the war. I haven't heard of a ghost story actually or a ghost in the Vue Grand, but there is a magnificent photograph in the entrance hall of the Grand showing the military lined up in 1887 in front of the building, and there is clearly a ghost in that photograph. He's standing outside the post office. You'll need to look at the photo to see him.
Okay.
It was very important in the life of the town, for sure. It was always there, in the centre of town, probably what you'd call the main crossroads, I suppose, opposite the post office and a park, opposite the library. It was the site of various important meetings at different times.
Yeah, I think we'll still be here for quite a while yet, but it is quite hard work and I need quite a lot of staff which are now available again, which was not the case in the last 3 years. But look, we've come through COVID and that has been a part of the history of the hotel now too, because it's unusual for the hotel to have been closed for so long. And now that we've come out of that, it's just lovely to have it firing again. You know, the business is thriving again. It's taken 3 years from closure to be back to this point. So it's too good an opportunity to let go now. So I'll be here for quite a while, I think.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.